Hey guys, Rich here. Welcome to another Halo Reach action figure review. My brain shut off for a second. Anyway, today I'm going to be reviewing the Jorge from the Series 4 action figure line. Now, the difference between this Jorge figure from the previous Jorge figure is the fact that he doesn't have a helmet on, as you can see here. It's just his face. Now, I bought this figure, and I was thinking, you know what? It'd be cool to have him. But now that I have him in person, I'm not so sure. Because he's the exact same figure that we've already had back in Series 1. He's the exact same figure. He still comes with his turret, his backpack, and that's all of his attachments. You know, the articulation is going to be the exact same. The paint job is basically the exact same. So the only thing separating him from the previous Jorge is his lack of a helmet, or, you know, just the fact he has a different head. And it made me think, do I really want this figure so bad that I'm willing to spend the money to just get the exact same figure with a slight variation to it? And I'm not sure yet. That's why I've kept him in the box, because there's really no point in doing any other parts of the review. I mean, his articulation is the same. Everything else he comes with is the exact same. And I've already previously reviewed the Jorge, and not to be, you know, snobby or anything, but I've already kind of reviewed him, and there's nothing else new about him except for his face. To show you here, don't look at me. I'm trying to get the detail. Hold on, give me a second. Well, we're not getting it. There it is. Wet, but no, and found it. Nope. Nope. Come on, work, camera. There we go. It's one downside of this camera is you can't be very close to it and it messes it all up. Anyway, detail here. You can see that Jorge has the scar going from his right, well, actually his forehead on above his right eye, down past his red eye. He has a mustache. He's not very clean shaven. He does resemble Jorge, but I wouldn't say he's like an exact copy, especially with this picture here. This is how Jorge looks in the game. He always got that squinty look, you know, like he's a real tough guy, and I thought that was awesome. And Jorge is actually probably my favorite character in the game, probably because he got a ton of lines and, you know, whatever. But he looks like Jorge for the most part. I mean, he's got another scar on his left side of his face. I'd say they did a good job of creating him, you know, of designing him, but would I say that he's an exact copy? Not even close. Would I say that... Yeah, I definitely say he needs like another 50% to be better. Yeah, that's just what I would say. You know, some people might disagree, but overall, I'm going to give him a 4.5 out of 5. The figure is still pretty cool. The paint job is good. I can see that through the packaging. But if someone were to ask me, hey Rich, which would you get, Jorge without a helmet or Jorge with a helmet? I would say definitely get Jorge with a helmet. Frankly, I know this is going to sound kind of rude, but frankly, I don't know why the Spartans of Noble team that we're going to have, you know, like that took their helmets off in the game. So you had Jun, Kat, Carter, and Jorge. Why weren't their heads included with the figure? And everybody knows why they weren't included with the figures originally, because they want to sell you the same thing later. So, frankly, do you want to buy a redo of the figure that just doesn't have his helmet on? That's up to you guys. For me, I'm kind of leaning towards no. I mean, these figures are not cheap when you buy a ton of them. And, you know, if I were to make a decision based of all the single figures in Series 4, I would tell you, every time I look at this picture, I haven't gotten the Elite General yet. That's the figure I want to get my hands on. But besides that, the Grunt Major is great, the Brute Miner is awesome, and so does the Spartan Mark V. And the Spartan Mark V is not exclusive to anywhere, so you can get that guy possibly anywhere, you know? And I've already seen him a couple of times at different stores, so he's out there. So definitely, if you want to get any of the figures, I would put my vote in between the Elite General and the Spartan Mark V. I'd pass on Jorge, frankly. And that's just me being honest with you guys. He doesn't really impress me just because he doesn't have a helmet on, you know? It just, I would have preferred him to have come with an interchangeable head and his helmet, you know? And maybe say, okay, McFarlane didn't have these designed previously. They didn't have the faces designed. Well, then they could have included his helmet now. So anybody else who picks this up now who's recently got into these figures, because I know new people message me all the time saying they're just getting into figures and stuff. So I know they're out there. There's a ton of them. Why didn't they include the helmet now? You know, they easily could have, but it's a marketing thing. They want you to buy both, and they've already decided that they're going to do this with Carter as well. And it's like, you know, I so much would prefer him to come with the helmet. also, you know? That's just what I think. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. Let me know down in the comment section what you guys think. Frankly, I think he could have came with his helmet. Just that's what I think. But I'd like to know what you guys think down in the comment section. Do you think that he should have came with his helmet originally? He should have came with the unhelmeted version? You know, just something. So that you don't have to buy two different figures of the same guy to get two different variations of him that really are practically the same thing. Now, some people are probably wondering, why didn't George come with the helmet so that it could go on his head? I don't necessarily know. You know, when you start doing interchangeable, or when you start doing removable helmets to a figure who has a face underneath, sometimes that can cause complications because then the helmets have to be a certain thickness and a certain, you know, all this stuff. But I would have just preferred just to have two interchangeable heads, you know, one with the helmet with a peg and one without the helmet with a peg. That just would have been enough for me, you know. They didn't have to make it so the helmet would be removable. But let me know in the comment section what you guys think. Overall, like I said, I give him a 4.5 out of 5. I think he's still good, but he's definitely probably, if I were to pick any figure in this whole series not to get, if you could get pretty much anybody else, it would be this one. Plain and simple. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching, commenting, subscribing, being the awesome people that you are. I'll talk to you guys all again later. And, yeah. All right. What am I going to do now? I'm just going to go. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to sit here and admire the daylight. Yeah, whatever.